first, we're going to find A times C. And of course, I'm starting with ax squared plus bx plus c. So my A is the number in front of the what? X squared. So my example that we are going to do here let's do 10x squared minus 18x minus 4. So the first thing I need to do here is what? I need to find A times C. Well, what is A? What does that mean? That means A times C. What is A in this case? 10. What is C in this case?
4.
Somebody's right, somebody's wrong.
Negative
Which
four.
one is it?
Negative 4.
Does the negative matter?
Yes.
Yes, it's very important. Negative 4. What do I get when I multiply those two together? Negative 40. So we've done the first step. We've found what A times C is equal to. Second, I'm going to say is we're going to say find your special numbers. They are two numbers that multiply to get AC and add to get B. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw something that's going to look a little like your worksheet I'm going to give you guys to do. You're going to have boxes here.
Is that the first one? The AC.
Where in the world did you think that was a D?
E.
AC.
Oh.
There is no E in this. However, from a distance, it does look like that, doesn't it? I'm going to white out this, let it dry, and then I'll rewrite it with a C, okay? That's AC right there. So what is A, and this is what I'm going to expect you to do on your worksheet too. What is A times C in this case?
Negative 40.
So we're going to find the two numbers that multiply to get negative 40 and add to get what?
4.
No.
Negative 18.
Add to get B. So we have to look up here at our original equation and figure which one is the B. That's the middle term. That's in this case, it's a negative what? Does everyone see where I got the negative 18 from? guess on your worksheet, you could just write negative 40 right here. So I need to find the two numbers that multiply to get negative 40 and add to negative 18. That may not pop right in your head. So possibly somewhere here off to the sides, you might need to write all the factors of negative 40. Well, here's what can always help you. When they multiply to get a negative, one of the numbers has to be what? Put negative and one of the numbers has to be?
Positive.
At this point, I want all pencils down. All personal tattoos that we're trying to make on ourselves, things like that, let's please stop. I want them out of your hand. Okay, so I need to find two numbers that multiply to get a negative 40. So I know one of them's positive, one of them's negative. Now I need them to add to a negative number, so which number needs to be the negative? The bigger of the two or the smaller? The bigger. So like first, positive 1 times a negative 40. What does that add to though?
Negative 39.
That doesn't work, does it? I want it to get to add to a what? Negative 18. What's another factor of 40?
2 and 20.
2 and 20, but which one is going to be negative?
Negative.
Because I have to get a negative 40, right? Negative matters. What do those add to? Negative 18. Do I need to go on any further? I have found what I need. So, what are my two numbers that I found here?
2 and negative 20.
So I'm going to put a positive 2 and a negative 20. And I would like you to write it just like that. Good, you're done with the second step. You found your two special numbers. Your third step. Use those special numbers to rewrite the middle term. In other words, the bx. What do I mean by that? Well, I'm going to write what stayed the same here. What you need to do is, we're going to use these two numbers I found. Pencils down. We're going to use these two numbers that I find. What did I already know that they add up to get? A negative 18, which is our middle term, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the first term the same, which in this case is what? 10x squared. I'm going to leave the last term the same, which in this case is a what? Negative 4. But then I'm going to use these two special numbers that I found to rewrite the middle term. So instead of negative 18x, I'm going to write plus 2x minus 20x. You see how it's the exact same thing? It's like you didn't simplify, right? So write that down. So now I'm done with the third step. That's not so bad, is it? But I basically went from using the two special numbers I found to rewrite the middle term. Easy peasy, right? Fourth. Factor out the GCF of the first two terms then do the same with the last two terms. important side note here. Whatever the sign of your third term, use that sign for your second GCF. You may understand more what that means here in a second. This is what kinda is weird to people. What you're basically doing here, okay? I've got this here now, right? 10x squared plus 2x minus 20x minus 4. Does everyone agree? That's what I'm left with right now. Everybody with me? All right, pencils down. We can finish writing in just a second. In fact, I'll make copies of this for you, okay? Okay, first it tells me factor out the GCF of the first two terms. What are the first two terms here? I need to factor out the GCF here. So, first look at your numbers. You have the numbers of 10 and 2. What is the GCF of the numbers there?
10.
Will 10 go divided into 2 evenly?
And
2 will divide into both. 2 is the biggest number that will divide into both evenly. So I can factor out a what? 2. How about variables? Do they have an x in common?
Mhm.
There's 2 x's here and one of them here. Gus, I need your eyes up here. How many do they at least have in common? So I can factor out a 2x. Now your job, once you factor that out, is then in parentheses to write what's left. So you have to say 2 times what is 10. Can anybody answer that question for me?
5.
X times what is x squared?
X.
Easy enough, right? 2 times what is 2? What kind of 1?
Positive.
And I already pulled out the only x I had here, right? So is there any x's left in here? No, there is not. Now, here's where that side note comes up. Because now, I'm going to factor out, I'm going to group these two together. And this sign right here is very important. Whatever the sign of the third term is here, that's the sign of your GCF. So if it's negative, factor out a what? Negative. If it's positive, factor out a positive. So since it's negative, I know I'm going to factor out a what? Negative. Now look at the numbers. 20 and 4. What's the GCF of those?
Negative 4.
Basically a 4, right? I already decided it was negative. Okay? Do they have any x's in common? No, there's one here, but there's none over here, so I can't factor out an x. So then now I need to write all that's left. A negative 4 times what is a negative 20? What kind of? A positive 5, right? But negative 4 would give me negative 20. What else needs to be here to make it be negative 20x? 5 what? X. Does everybody see that? Now a negative 4 times what is a negative 4?
Positive 1.
Positive 1. Now you are what?
Done.
You are done. Fifth step, and we'll write all this down, and like I said, I'll make a copy of it. If you have done this correctly, then what's left in your parentheses should be, what do you think? Exactly. Be what? Same thing. Is what's left in our parentheses, are they exactly the same thing? If so, split it up into a product of two binomials. Binomials mean there's two terms. So what you do is you take the two things on the, what were those? On the outside, put them in parentheses in the front. What's in front here? 2x
Minus 4. And 5x plus 4.
and then what was the same, you put right there. What was the same?
5x plus 1.
Guess what? You're done. Now, this looks much tougher than it is because I went so slow. Let's be honest, I went very slow there, didn't I? How many of you have done this method before? You should have, but if you didn't, you didn't. But it's not that bad if you just follow the steps. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take somebody, I want someone to hand these out. These are your worksheets. We'll do an example of that. Okay? Everybody hear me? Somebody come with me and bring these back to us. I'll make copies of the steps I just did for each of them. Okay? That way you'll have it in my writing like this. You've also got them in some of them, at least in yours. And then you can finish writing on your notes, but keep this and turn it in. But who wants to handle this? No one? Ashley, will you come here and get this out of the copier for me? We're still recording, by the way, so whatever you say will go online. Ashley? Ah!
I love you, Coach Stubb.
The teacher's gone vandalize the property. Holy shit.
Don't touch me there, Gus.
Just take one.
That is not a joystick, Tiffany.
It's not true.
Good.
Y'all can go die.
I can go down.
Yes.
Cody, you come sit by me.
I didn't hear you. That's all I heard. I thought you were saying. I said I'm so happy. I haven't said anything bad.
All right.
I should go die.
Let's everyone look at, and you notice these worksheets all have, up in the top, they kind of have the steps there, don't they? I didn't have any in here where you have to factor out a GCF to start the whole deal, so don't worry about that. So basically, you'll start on number 2. Okay? Wait for Ashley to get back with those, and let me start passing those around. Very good. Just start these, take one, pass it around while we're doing this. Okay? Now, we're going to do number 1 together on the board. Has everyone got number 1 in front of them? Okay, first thing I want you to do, I've got a blank here to write what? What A times C is, right? What is A times C?
15, negative 15.
Negative 15. And the negative is very, very important. Gus,
I'm waiting, I'm grabbing a pencil real quick.
what have you been doing all hour?
Listening.
And not writing?
Sure.
Now, so now I'm going to find the two numbers, and you see how I've got it up here, that multiply to get a what?
Negative 15.
Negative 15, and add to get what?
Negative 15.
I need to find those two special numbers. If you want to write it off to the side, here, you know, whatever you need to do, if you need to write out negative 15 and write down all the factors, 1, 15, 3, and 5, which one would we want to make negative? We want our answer when we add them together to be what?
Negative 2.
So which one needs to be the negative, the smaller or the bigger?
Bigger.
So negative 15, negative 5. Do either one of these add to a negative 2?
Yes.
Which one?
3, negative 5.
So those are them, right? So this needs to be what? Positive 3 and a what?
Negative.
Negative 5? Now, your next step, what I should see on your paper. What's the next step? We rewrite what? The middle term using what? The two special numbers we found. So what stays the same here?
3 x squared and the negative.
Okay, negative 5. Now, put your pencils down. Stop. Watch me do this problem, then I'll leave it back up here, and then you can write it down, okay? I need to rewrite the middle term using our special numbers we just found. So this becomes a plus what?
3.
X minus what? 5 what?
X.
You see how, if I simplify this, it's the same as that. Would everyone agree? And that has to be the case. Now, the next step is to group the first two and the last two and factor out a GCF. Take the sign of the third one and bring it down. What's the sign of the third term?
Negative.
So this is going to be negative, isn't it? So what's the GCF of my first two? Because I'm going to group these two, and then I'm going to group what? Those two. Does everyone agree? What is the GCF of these two? Of the numbers is what? 3 is the largest number that will go into both of them. Do they have any variables in common?
Yes.
How many? 1x is in at least each one, so I can factor out an x. So 3 times what is 3?
1.
X times what is x squared? 3 times what is 3? 1, but I need to put what? Plus 1. I've already factored out the only x that was in there, so do I need to have any more left in here?
No.
Okay, go on to the next one. Just look at the numbers, because I've already established that I'm going to factor out a negative, haven't I? What is the greatest common factor of the numbers? 5 and 5.
5.
5, that one's easy enough. Do they have any x's in common?
No.
No, they don't. So now I just need to write down what's left. A negative 5 times what is a negative 5x? Or negative 5 times what is negative 5? Positive what? 1, right? How, though, am I going to make this negative 5x? There still needs to be an x somewhere, doesn't there? Has to be here, doesn't it? A negative 5 times what is a negative 5?
Positive 1.
Positive 1. If you remember, if you've done this correctly, what should be left in the parentheses? Exact same thing. If that's the case, you can go on to the next step. If it's not the case, then you did something wrong and try to find out what you did. Because if all this worked out, they should always be the same thing. Maybe you didn't factor out a negative here like you're supposed to. You know, things like that. Do you see, so for some reason people have problems, some people have problems with this. It's easy to some, hard to others, but do you see how, because these are the same, the things left in here, this is just x plus 1, isn't it? Well, what would be in front? What's in front of it? 3x, what? And now you have factored it. It's not so terrible, is it?
Where'd you get a 3?
I don't know what you're pointing.
Where'd I get the 3? Right there.
No, the 3 right there.
right here.
No, look, they're in the second box. No, go up one. Okay.
Here,
Yeah, okay, never mind.
here.
Yeah, never mind. I got it.
Okay. This is your assignment. Now, the only thing that I see here that you don't have to have, is everybody listening? Is this right here.
Your screen's frozen.
It's frozen.
Dang it. You don't necessarily have to have that part. You don't have to put boxes around these if you don't want to. That was me just trying to bring a visual representation there. Other than that, that's it. I expect to see those numbers right there. I want you to tell me every time that these two numbers have to, my special numbers have to what? Multiply to get negative 15 and add to get what? Negative 2. I want that in there, and then I want your two numbers written with a comma in between them neatly right there. Your second step is to write it out like that, right? And that. A times C. Tell me what it is every time. There is no shortcuts here. Has everybody got that and understand that? Failure to do that, I will just hand it back. You will receive no credit until every single piece of this worksheet is done exactly how I want.